Right, you need to use Dr. ABC, so D stands for danger, and as you're approaching the casualty, you've got to check for danger. That means danger to you and your teammates, as well as the casualty. You don't want to be a casualty yourself, so make it known to your assessor when you're being assessed that you are actually checking for danger and ask if there is any danger. Right, now, R stands for response in Dr. ABC, so I need to get a response, find out if this patient is unconscious or not. So what I'm going to do is first of all, I'm going to put my hand on his shoulder and my hand on his forehead, and I'm going to introduce myself and shout quite loud. Can you hear me, mate? Is everything all right? What's happening? He's not responding to voice, so he's below V on the AVPU scale. So what I'm going to do now is give him a bit of pain to see if he's below P on the AVPU scale, which would be mean he's unconscious. So to do that, we typically pinch his ear quite hard. And he's getting no response there, so he's below P on the AVPU scale, so he's unconscious. Now the second test is he breathing? Because if he's unconscious and not breathing, we must commence CPR. So in order to check whether he's breathing or not, the first thing I must do before I tilt his head, I must open his mouth and check if there's any obvious obstruction. For example, if I can see something, I might have to do the Heimlich manoeuvre, or I might have to, if it's easily accessible, I might consider removing it, but you've got to be careful with that. So you look and see if it's clear. Then and only then you do a head tilt chin lift, which will open his airway, which will stop his tongue from falling down the back. If you do these in the wrong order, you could end up having something in the back of his throat which then goes further down, and you've made a bad situation much worse. So you always check his mouth before you do the head tilt chin lift. The head tilt chin lift is done by putting your hand on the forehead like this. You pinch the fleshy part of his chin, okay, and you tilt the whole lot back. Now this will actually cause spinal bending, and there are other more advanced methods that we teach you that would avoid that. Particularly important if the patient has possible spine compromise. But the basic life support does a head tilt chin lift that opens his airway, providing it's not blocked or occluded. So that's A for Dr. ABC, that's open the airway. So the two steps of that. Now what I'm going to do now is check for breathing. And I do this by putting my ear above his mouth and looking down the line of his chest. And I'm looking for rise and fall of his chest. I'm listening for the breath sounds. And I'm feeling for the breath on my ear for no more than 10 seconds. Don't be confused by gasping, snoring noises, which are so-called agonal breaths, which are like the last gasps of a dying person. That's not normal breathing. I'm listening for normal breathing, not agonal breaths. This patient is giving me no signs of any breathing, so within 10 seconds, what I then need to do is the C of Dr. ABC, which is to start CPR. So to do CPR, I release his head. I put the ball of my hand on the centre of his chest between the two nipples, and then I put my other hand over the top and interlock my fingers, and I climb vertically above the patient with my arms straight, and I commence doing compressions. Now the depth is quite deep, it's 6 centimetres, and the pace is quite fast. It's between 110 and 120 compressions per minute, which is quite tiring. I'm going to need help. So I'm going to shout for help. Help! Because I can't sort this out all by myself. I need help. So I need at least one person to come and help me. So I'll start the compressions. I've shouted for help. And lo and behold...
Hi Matt, what do you need?
Yeah. And now the first thing I need is a phone call to be made, please.
Okay.
To the emergency services 999.
Okay.
Now you need, whoever's helping you with this phone call, you need to get across the point that, to get the key words in, that the suspected cardiac arrest, he's unconscious, he's not breathing, and that CPR is commenced. Because these will cause the control room to press all the right buttons to give it the highest priority that they can give it to get somebody here as quick as possible. So I dispatch him to go and get that phone call made. He might even have a phone on it with a speakerphone, in which case he can put that on and we can talk to the control room together. Either way is good. The second thing I need is a defib, because the only thing that can save this patient is a defib. I can do this all night and it won't make his heart start again. I need that defib.
Okay, I'll get a defib.
So my mate goes and gets a defib. Now I've probably done more than about 30 compressions because I'm talking to you. But what I need to do now, I can either carry on doing compressions only CPR, or if I'm competent, then you know I'm not going to cause any delay to the process by talking to you, for example. Then I can go straight and do 2 good quality rescue breaths. Now to do the 2 rescue breaths, I have to close the nose because otherwise it'll escape. Head tilt, chin lift to open the airway. Put my mouth over his and give 2 rescue breaths. And in doing so, I'm not going mad, I'm not trying to blow him up like a balloon. I just want to see the chest rise twice. That's 2 effective rescue breaths. I mustn't spend very long on it because all the time spent away from the compressions is causing problems for this patient's outlook. So really that needs to be all over very, very quickly, and I should be back on the chest doing the compressions.
Okay, Mike, I've got an AED and I've made that phone call for you.
Thank you very much. Now the thing about the AED is all you need to do is open the lid, so you tell your mate to open the lid.
I've opened the lid.
And it should start talking to you, in case you forget. Also remember that the pads have got a diagram on the side that tells you where they go. And those pads are both the same, so don't worry about which one's which.
Okay, I'm just going to check the patient's chest, make sure there's no piercings, patches or pacemakers. And if they've got a hairy chest, I'm going to shave it.
That's perfect. And the other one on the side of the chest there. That's exactly as per the diagram. I've done about 30 compressions there. Oh, no time. We mustn't touch while it's analysing because otherwise the analysing won't work.
Analysing rhythm. Shock advised.
Shock advised. Now it's going to be charging, so it's safe to do compressions while it's charging.
Push flashing button.
And now it's ready to do this. When I get away, I'll make sure to take control of the situation. Stand clear, everybody. Make sure everybody's clear.
Push flashing button.
Please press the button.
Deliver shock.
Shocking now.
Shock delivered. It is now safe to touch the patient.
So,
Start CPR.
so we can go back to CPR.
Give 30 compressions.
And back to
Then give
compressions.
2 breaths.
While I'm doing these compressions, can I just say that in order to be effective, they need to be at the right pace and the right depth. And also, at the end of each compression, you just need to let your ball of your hand come off a little bit. Not completely, but a bit. Because if you don't do that, you don't allow the natural ventilation to take place. And research has showed that that's important in the compressions being effective. So make sure you're not, pressing all the time while you're doing it. You need to come off at the end of each compression. Not completely, but just it should be completely relaxed at the end of each compression. That way you'll get the maximum effect with your compressions, because it's compressions that will save this guy. Now it is very tiring indeed, so what we would typically do, one person wouldn't do it forever, we'd have another person, if they know what they're doing fine, just hand over, but otherwise explain to them exactly how to do it, and then they can take over with no gap. Now 2 minutes is a long time, particularly when you're doing compressions, but we've probably done about a minute now since the last shock. It feels like longer, but it will happen. The 2 minutes will come to an end, and you'll start getting more instructions from the defib, and it will say, do not touch patients and all that, and you just follow the instructions. And that's basically it. Thank you very much.